Hello and welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow Season 10, 10 seasons of empowering entrepreneurs, 10 seasons of recognizing excellence. I'm Sunanda Jayaseelan. On the show today, an exclusive conversation with Gautam Singhania, the Chairman and Managing Director of Raym Limited, talking to us about his views as to why he's so excited by the education space and why he feels entrepreneurs should be looking at this, his views on inflation and the impact for you, the small business owner, and also talking to us about the big event as far as the Ukraine-Russia war is concerned and its impact here on the domestic economy in this very special conversation. Gautam, what a pleasure having you here with us on the Leaders of Tomorrow, and who better to talk about everything that's going on right now in the economy than you, and you keep such a close eye and a bird's eye view really on what's happening. I want to kick this off by talking about the ripple effects that we're calling it here on the Leaders of Tomorrow on India's small businesses because of what's happening on the global stage as we speak. We're just coming off the pandemic, and even as all reports are suggesting a possible fourth wave, we have what's happening in Ukraine and Russia, sentiment, and also perhaps demand and manufacturing being hit. I want to hear from you. How are you really viewing what's happening?
The Russia-Ukraine crisis is very unfortunate. Just the world coming out of COVID now and getting hit by another crisis. I think at some level the Russia-Ukraine crisis, more than impact a country like India by sentiment, is localized to Russia and Ukraine, and just maybe a few of the neighboring countries. Obviously, companies that do business with Russia are getting impacted, and I think the impact will be for this month as long as the war goes on. But once that is over, I think there'll be a rupee-ruble trade, which our government is also playing smartly. They bought oil from there, and that will continue. There will be a shift in global power, but I'm not a specialist on that.
Sure.
As far as MSMEs are concerned, obviously, when crises happen, it's unfortunate that MSMEs get the most impacted. And the last question you raised was on manufacturing. Is there a manufacturing slowdown? My answer to that is no. I think we are very fortunate and blessed that we have a very large consuming class in this country. And the domestic consumption really takes care of blips that you might get from international voters like this. Rest of the world is doing well. So yes, we have a crisis in Ukraine, and of course everybody's heart goes out to that. I would have thought at this time and age diplomacy would be a better route to follow, but many people say Putin is right in what he's doing. Many people say Putin is wrong. My view is that things can be sorted out by talking rather than wars like this where tens of thousands of lives are lost, and your heart goes out to those families. But it's sad. But this is what it is. And I will talk about the humanitarian crisis and the impact that it is really having.
But I want to talk about the impact that we're seeing on inflation, CPI inflation spiking to an 8-month high because of the impact that we're seeing on petroleum prices. You alluded to that. How are you expecting the next couple of months will pan out?
No, I think, see, inflation is there today. And nobody can do anything about it. Yes, petroleum has gone to an all-time high. And this is a geopolitical game, I think. I think you talk to Russians and they say, we don't want to talk about anything else but making money right now because oil is high. But what goes up must come down. So 3 months, 6 months, we see these prices should come down. It's of course hurting a lot of sectors. It's hurting the weaker people more with petroleum prices, whether it's steel prices, aluminum prices. Across the board, there's inflation. But then if you look at the flip side of it, if there is such a crisis in pricing on the input costs, then you have no choice but to raise your prices. And this is the only time in your life when you can raise your prices and the consumer will understand. because, inflation is the buzzword today.
For someone who has the kind of exposure that you do to the FMCG space, for entrepreneurs who are in the FMCG space, what would you like to tell them about what perhaps the next couple of months are going to look like in terms of input costs and in terms of the pricing you were just talking about?
No, so I think input costs are going to be high. Like I said, that we expect at least the next 3-4 months input costs will be high. It's really the ability of your brand to pass it on and how much you're able to pass on. I mean, if you see the pricing of soaps, they've gone up from, I think, 10 rupees to 25, 27 rupees. But, the minute inflation eases off, because soap noodle prices have gone up, and if prices ease off, the pricing comes down. And that's really, they can do it because the inventory pipeline is very small. But in businesses where inventory pipeline is very long, it becomes very difficult to do. In a short inventory pipeline, you can cover your distributor if there's a drop in price. Okay. Because otherwise his inventory will never sell, he'll make a loss. So it's a very dynamic time right now, but let's see what happens.
Okay. I do also want to talk about the fact that for the first time ever, we have seen exports spiking as much as they have, coming in at nearly $400 billion, and something that, the Commerce Ministry, the central government, of course, is saying is fantastic news and really showing the strength of the Indian economy. How are you really viewing that from an industry point of view and from someone who's really a voice of India Inc.? How excited are you perhaps about what it reflects about the Indian economy?
So, I think the world is seeing a China plus one strategy. Okay. Nobody wants to be in an only China strategy. Okay. So that is currently playing into India's hands. Number two, if you take the UK market and say specifically our business, if there were 5 big players in that market, in the pandemic 3 have disappeared. Now you've got 2 guys who've taken the whole market. So they've gone from 20% market share to 50% market share. The other thing you're seeing is they're saying that instead of working with 5 suppliers, we'd rather work with 3 suppliers or 2 suppliers. Sure. And if you are one of those 2, you've not only gained because their business has grown, but you've also gained a percentage of their share. And that's why you're seeing good quality manufacturers getting a larger piece of the pie.
Okay. So what is your advice for an entrepreneur who's watching today's interview to say, this is how you should be playing to your strengths? I was watching a recent interview of yours that you did once you posted your numbers. You said the larger players have survived and players like yourself have done so well because you have played to your strengths, whereas smaller businesses which were perhaps still scrambling have not done as well.
Well, every business has its own strengths. And like I say, play to your strengths. I mean, we've done multiple things. We've cut our costs dramatically. And, for a smaller player, for him to cut his costs and be more nimble-footed is much easier than for a large corporate. If he's got his own strengths, he should just, focus on what he needs to do. There's always going to be a coexistence of small and big players.
I want to talk about something that you are personally invested in, quite passionate about, and that's your foray as far as education is concerned through Singhania Quest Plus. 1, if you can talk to us about that, and 2, why is the education space perhaps interesting you?
So let me answer the second question first. I think, we as a business need to give back to society. And we've been in the education business for almost 50 years. Last couple of years, we've decided to exponentially grow it. Our first original school is currently probably the largest school in India with over 7,000 children in it. We have a second school in Thana, which is now 2,500 children. One in Vapi, one in Chinwada. And over the last couple of years, we've taken a decision to exponentially grow it. So by 2024, the Thana old school will be expanded to 11,800 children in one location, one school, which will probably be the largest school in the world. The second school at the back will also be expanded from 2,500 children to maybe 8,000 to 10,000 children, because that's the demand and that's what the society wants. And we believe that we should have in excess of 20,000 children in Thana. You have the other 2 schools, plus we're looking at management contracts on other schools. We're currently in the process of negotiating a contract for 6 more schools. And even if I take 3,000 children a school, that's another 18,000 children there. So in the next 3 years, we should be educating maybe 40 to 50,000 children physically, plus whatever else new we take on. So I'm very proud and happy about that we're giving back to society. My grandfather always said we don't do business in our charities and we don't do charity in our businesses. So all monies made out of the education trust are plowed back 100% into the education business. And I think it's a really good thing to do.
Okay. Do you think the education space then is something that you want to call out for our entrepreneurs as being a big emerging area, especially EdTech?
Well, we're into the EdTech space. It's quite a serious commitment, so I don't think it's easy to get into it. And it's a long gestation period because you have a brand, you've got to create all the capsules and the programs, etc. You need your own studios. So it's not easy to get into, but I think I'm hoping that with that we'll be able to reach a much larger number of people than you can with a physical education.
Okay. Any specific segments or areas in the EdTech space that you think is going to be an emerging opportunity you'd want to call out for our viewers?
Well, we're focused on the K-12 and we're sticking to that.
Okay. Time for a quick break here on our Leaders of Tomorrow Icons interview with Gautam Singhania. Back in just a moment. What would you like for our viewers to really take away from this conversation? What's your big view for 2022 that you want to leave them with?
No, I think you just got to stay focused. If you want to achieve something, I believe that the power of the mind is very strong. And when you want to achieve something, you just have to stay focused and you will achieve it. Obstacles are those things that you see when you lose sight of the target. And you just stay focused on the target. Even when we race cars, the instructor says, look long, look forward. Don't keep looking down, because the minute you start looking short, you start making mistakes. Just look out of the car and drive far.
Welcome back. You're with us here on our Leaders of Tomorrow interview. Our icon tonight is none other than Gautam Singhania. I want to talk about the real estate space as well. And you said that you will stick to residential real estate, at least for the moment. What's the big opportunity there that you would want to advise our viewers on?
I think in real estate, we found ourselves in the affordable housing space, in value for money space. So we are fundamentally doing 1, 2, and 3 BHK. As a corporate, we're very focused on discipline of construction, delivery, etc. So our project has done extremely well in Thane, where people know that these people have constructed even through the pandemic. And we announced our delivery date with a countdown timer on our website last year. And this year, 10th of December at 10 a.m., we'll deliver the apartments.
Okay.
That's a very strong statement coming from somebody who's not been in the real estate business. But we've approached it with a manufacturing background. That this has to be done, this has to be constructed, we're going to do it. So that obviously gives us a lot of credibility in the space. I think our product is differentiated. The pricing is right, the location is right. So I think the real estate for us has done extremely well, and it's a business we've really built in the last 3 years in the pandemic.
I was just going to come to what you were saying. The real estate market is a very crowded one, especially at the bottom of the pyramid, where you have a lot of people who are, building, say, one project, 2 projects, etc. How would someone like yourself, who's in this industry and in this space, what has your strategy been like? And based on that, what is your advice for an entrepreneur who perhaps not just in real estate, but in any industry or market that's very crowded, how do you stand out?
See, you got to have the best product, the best price, the best location. You got to find your own USP. If you come and see our project, the fact that we are selling means we're doing something right. And we have, it's 3-star pricing with a 7-star lifestyle. The guys we're giving a very good product with a 505 square feet apartment, which is a 2 BHK. Guy buys for 115, 120. He might live in his apartment, but he's living in that complex. And in our phase 1, we have 400,000 square feet of open space, which is 9 acres. We've got a clubhouse which is 40,000, 50,000 square feet. So he's living in a 505 square feet apartment physically, but he's got all that space to enjoy. He's got the Willingdon Club and the Breach Candy and the Belvedere and the Chambers and everything put together as a lifestyle, which he doesn't have to go and become a member of a club today, which he might not even get. Number 2, he's got walk to education because the project is on a touching wall with the school. So If you're staying there, you've got a lifestyle, you've got education for your kids, and your work is not far, I mean, it's an ideal situation.
And how has the pandemic as an event perhaps changed the way people are approaching buying their homes?
Well, I think certainly people have realized that, getting stuck in a house with more number of members per square foot, if I had to put it mildly, it's become a priority purchase.
Okay.
And people have realized the value, because I've empathized with people who've been stuck in their homes for a year and a half, 2 years. It plays havoc with people's lives. And people have said, if I have the money, I'd rather go and buy an apartment.
I understand you're largely looking at the Maharashtra market?
Fundamentally, we're in the Maharashtra market.
Okay. Any plans beyond that you could share with us?
Currently, nothing outside Maharashtra.
Okay. I want to really ask you for your advice as well, as far as the overarching theme that we have on the Leaders of Tomorrow, which is empowering 1 billion dreams. You're someone who makes no bones about the big dreams that you have in chasing after those dreams. What's your advice for someone who's watching our interview about, one, setting your goals, for an entrepreneur setting their goals and being able to really chase after those?
Yeah, so I think it really comes down to, you got to dream. If you can dream it, then only can you do it. You just got to dream, and some of them will get fulfilled, some will not. But if you don't dream it, you'll never be able to do it.
Okay.
And number two, once you dream it, then you got to stay at it, stay the course. I mean, a lot of people that went through the pandemic certainly dreamt they'd come out of it. And you can't dream very far long. You can dream very far long, but you got to have your action plan for today. Let me give you an example. We're in the middle of a project right now. We're like 20 days to completion, and I've now gone into an action mode where it's reviewed 3 times a day, because we want to close this particular project that we're on in the next 20 days. And you can't say I'm going to review it once. So when it was 6 months away, we reviewed it once a week. Now I'm 3 times a day, and we just got to get to the finish line to finish this project. So it's how diligent you are about wanting to get something done.
What are your tips, Gautam? You just told me that you have a packed day till midnight. How do you manage to fit in all of these pieces? What's the secret?
It's just planning. It's just planning and prioritizing. You just got to find your priority in life, what you want to do, and you got to learn to say no to many things.
As we're ending today's interview, what would you like for our viewers to really take away from this conversation? What's your big view for 2022 that you want to leave them with?
No, I think you just got to stay focused. If you want to achieve something, I believe that the power of the mind is very strong. And when you want to achieve something, you just have to stay focused, and you will achieve it. Obstacles are those things that you see when you lose sight of the target. And you just stay focused on the target. Even when we race cars, the instructor says, look long, look forward. Don't keep looking down, because the minute you start looking short, you start making mistakes. Just look out of the car and drive far.
Thank you so much for being a sport and agreeing to join us on this hot seat and this rapid fire, where we try and bring the personal side of all our guests who join us on the show for the sake of our viewers. So let me pose 3 questions to you, and you pick them in your order of priority. If you had to only pick one thing, supercars, yachts, or going on fancy holidays, what would you pick?
Life.
But if you had one word about how you prioritize your day, because you're doing so many different things, what would it be?
Planning.
Okay. For an entrepreneur who's watching today's interview, the one piece of advice that has been given to you that has changed perhaps how you think about the way you do things, what would it be?
You just got to be focused.
Okay. One holiday destination, and I was looking at your Twitter feed, and you had some incredible videos and pictures from a recent holiday, but one place in the world that you would want to go to.
Home. I love my home.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Thank you very much.
Talking to us about all the things that are going to matter to entrepreneurs in 2022 was Gautam Singhania. His one-word takeaway to manage the entire turbulence that we're seeing is planning. Plan, plan, and plan. That's your advice, coming to you live and exclusive from Gautam Singhania. That's all we could manage to get into tonight's conversation, but if you have any feedback for us, our contact details coming up on your screens as we speak. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.